paranormal. It surrounds us. It's everywhere. Tonight, you will hear from the people who live and work within these highly active locations, all in the efforts to discover America's most haunted. With your host, ghost hunter and author, Dan Terry.
Good evening, boys and ghouls. I am Dan Terry, your ghost host with the most haunted, bringing you the biggest mysteries of the world. And this one's a new one on me. Now, guys, I'm going to just brag a little bit. I know a lot about ghosts. I know a lot about demonology, although I try to stay away from it. UFOs, I'm pretty good with it. I used to be a lot better, but I do keep up on the major issues, the major new reports and such. Cryptids, I can discuss it. I don't know a lot about it, but I can get into it a little bit. But when it comes to elementals, guys, it was only maybe 8-10 years ago before I even knew the word elemental. I've always taken fairies and leprechauns and things like that as folklore, as foolishness, honestly. But lately, the more I've been digging into all of it, and I got to admit, I'm a borderline 40. In fact, I heard this week a young lady claiming to be a 40 and never mentioned Charles Fort or John Keel. I don't see how you could do that, but that basically means everything's, in our opinion, is related. And the more I'm seeing men in black around UFO sightings, around cryptid sightings, ghosts, paranormal activity around UFO places, I'm beginning to wonder if it's not all connected. So I have to open my mind back up to the elementals. Well, I have found someone I think is really going to be able to shed some light, at least on part of it. Susy Bastille is an independent researcher on, and I'm sorry if I mess this up, Pukwudgie. That is, I'm going to say, an elemental, and I think she believes they are also. She has been researching this for some time. She's looked into the Cherokee Little People, which is also part of my ghost tour because it blends into this area. And that led her in also to the Bridgewater Triangle, which is another similar to the Bermuda Triangle. You can understand that. And I'm going to turn this over to her and see if she can teach me about the Pukwudgie and other things like this. Hi, Susie.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Oh, fine, thanks. You heard the introduction, I'm sure, and I am really, got to admit, I'm kind of lost on this whole topic, but I'm starting to become more of a believer because of the amount of sightings of these things. In my limited research before the show, I've read the Pukwudgie is a mean little creature who hates humans, can start fires, and can actually harass people, which makes me think of an angry leprechaun, because leprechauns can have attitudes like that. But you seem to think that's a little bit biased. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, so there's very specific lore around Pukwudgies that came from this one book that was written in 1934.
Oh.
It was called The Narrow Land by Elizabeth Reynard.
Mm-hmm.
And she interviewed someone from the Wampanoag tribe named Red Shell, who used an analogy to describe what the Europeans had done to them. And so in that analogy, the Pukwudgies were in place of the Europeans because at the time you still couldn't speak openly about that type of thing.
Okay.
And people took that and ran with it. There are sightings all the time and in a lot of different places, and none of them are ever scary. I mean, they're scary because it's something crazy, right?
Yes,
You're seeing
yeah.
something weird, but they're never like, violent or dangerous at all. And
Okay.
the oldest folklore with little people legends throughout the world, it's always, they're a little bit mischievous, like they might hide your keys or something like that, but it all says they're perfectly harmless unless provoked.
Okay.
So, just like, any other wild animal or people, even anything, that's a very reasonable response. So
Is
I think that they have definitely been demonized. And when the Puritans came over too,
Mhm.
they heard these tales of, little creatures in the woods and said, oh, those are demons.
And we talked a little about that earlier. Certain sects of the religious side, calls everything demons.
Mhm.
Ghosts are demons. Aliens are demons. Bigfoot's a demon. It's all the same. So I can certainly see your point on that. Where do you come across one of these, and how do you know what you're seeing?
So the traditional description is they're about 2 to 3 feet high, like mid thigh height in
Okay.
general. And they have kind of exaggerated human features, sometimes like a troll, or a lot of the times they're described as having a chipmunk like face.
Okay.
And specifically, pukwudgies are known to have like porcupine like quills or bristles on their head and back.
Hmm.
But most of the sightings don't have that. But that is, the pictures that you see depict that. They're also known to be shapeshifters as well.
Okay.
So, which one is the true form? We don't know. Or there's multiple things out there that little creatures in the woods. Either way, it could be.
Okay. Now, is this strictly American, or is these kind of creatures all around the world?
Every culture across the world has some little people lore.
Okay.
Um, the Philippines, South America has the duendes, and then Britain has leprechauns,
Hmm.
fairies, you name it over there. Africa also has a ton. I've, found little people lore in Aboriginal Australian
Okay.
lore as well. So it's really all around the world, and they're very similar.
I was going to ask, are they the same as a leprechaun, or is there basic differences? Because the lore of the two are very different.
Yeah, they're always mischievous.
True.
That's one thing. And then you have weird, very weird similarities. You have like the gnomes of Scandinavia wear those red pointy hats.
Hmm.
So do the duendes in South and Central America. And the little people in the Philippines also have red pointy hats.
That's is that because of an influence of Europeans?
So it's very old lore. But I also take caution a little bit because when you have old lore, it's like a game of telephone also, like with that book I
Right.
just was talking about too.
Hmm.
So I know in Central America, they're still occasionally spotted with the red hats. Um, but it could be a little bit of both.
Okay.
Hard to tell at this point.
And could that be something they're seeing because it's what they expect to see?
Absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
And I think that might explain some of like the shapeshifter legends as well. You know, if you believe in, the Keelian type of oh, sorry, I have a cat over here.
Okay.
If you're a Keelian, you think it might be like the same energy just manifesting through other places, for different reasons. And that kind of adds up for me as well, because
Okay.
the same places that you see pukwudgies, you also see orbs of light. You see there's lots of Bigfoot sightings,
Hmm.
Thunderbird sightings as well is a common denominator, not in every single area, but they're never alone. If you read the Mothman prophecies, Keel
I
talks
did.
about little people a couple of times. And
Hmm.
actually during the Mothman flap in Point Pleasant, there was a red orb of light spotted along the riverbank, and then they saw little people right after. And that's the same thing we see here is a red. I saw a red orb that turned orange.
Okay.
No little person with it, but a lot of the Pukwudgie sightings start with a sighting of a ball of light.
So you're sounding more like the Forteans also.
Yeah, I would put myself in that camp for sure.
They're all of this is somehow interconnected with humans.
Yeah, and like when I started looking into these, I thought it was just like cute local folklore, and didn't really think there was much more to it than that. But then, you start digging in more and you read the firsthand accounts, and then you start to, look into the history of the area and the other phenomena in the area, and then other areas with these sightings that have the same phenomena. And, even the geography is similar sometimes as well. And it's just, there's too many coincidences after a while.
The Pukwudgie is mostly known for Indiana and your area, Connecticut. Is that near the seaboard, or are we talking farther inland?
Yeah, so they're actually the entire all Algonquian speaking tribes use the word and have similar lore. The Bridgewater Triangle in southeast Mass, so it's kind of like where Cape Cod meets the rest of the state, is where the Bridgewater Triangle is, and that's like the hot spot. In Connecticut, we have the Pukwudgie is the name for it that's from the Mohegan language. So they don't call them Pukwudgies in Connecticut. And so like the Cherokee little people, the Pukwudgie from the Mohegan tribe they say they were flesh and blood. They're actually, flesh and blood little people that the Mohegan history is that they died out in the late 1800s. So they're extinct now. But the Pukwudgies from the Wampanoag lore, they've always been elementals, spirits or energy. I've never heard them described as flesh and blood in any of the older accounts.
Well, you talked about some that are wearing at least hats. The leprechauns were always allegedly wearing clothes. Are they a culture, or are these individual creatures that project that? I'm not quite grasping the idea.
And even with Pukwudgie, so the ones in Bridgewater Triangle aren't known to wear clothes. Actually, my favorite description is a woman that had seen them said it had a pot belly that hung down so low she couldn't tell if it was wearing pants.
Okay.
But the ones in Indiana around Mound State Park, they're said to wear like blue smocks, they're described as, and specifically blue. And they also, they're more human looking, but they still have the pointy ears, but they have blonde hair that they wear in a bowl cut there.
Wow. I live up here in the foothills of the mountains of Western North Carolina. What am I looking for?
So I think, I think anyone anywhere can go out in the woods and potentially have an encounter with some kind of little people. But the ones in your area are known to look more like tiny humans.
Okay. More like leprechauns then.
Yes. Yeah.
And where did that legend come from? Is that a holdover of the Irish, or is that something different?
I wouldn't even say that it's not influenced by it. But there are legends that predate Europeans if you look back far enough. Okay. The Moon-Eyed people in that area as well. That one, so I don't not believe in that legend, but I think that one has had a lot of European influence. And I know from looking into the Pukwudgies here that you have to really dig deep to get to like the original legend and then look at, eyewitness sightings
Mhm.
And basically, I don't want to say ignore what's on Google, but you can't always,
Oh,
take
yeah,
that.
I ignore a
Yeah.
lot of what's on Google,
Yeah.
but yeah, I see your point. Depends on what the original source was, I suppose.
Right, exactly. And because they were described as light-skinned, that was used as basically like racist rhetoric at one point too.
Really?
Um, yeah. So, um, there was a lot of that saying, like that Europeans were here and they were these gods to the Cherokee people and what just
I
ridiculous stuff. Yeah.
But there is legends all through the mountains of underground races, underground tribes of different types of people uh, that the Cherokee and other Indian tribes have claimed they fought
Hmm.
over and over again, including the Moonite people. But there's even more farther down south, and the Little People. And at some point, I want to say it's down around Mississippi. The Cherokee actually filled in a cave to stop them from coming up from the beneath.
Yep.
And
And in Germany, they have the Kaibolds,
I've
which
heard of
is
that.
their word. Yeah, and they live in caves and underground as well.
And I believe the church made them cover up and destroy caves because of the creatures that were allegedly coming up here.
Yep.
I
And
talked to
you have
Tyler about that.
yeah, the Tommy knockers as well. Those live in caves or mines.
Okay, that legend kind of got taken by Hollywood and changed
Yes.
completely. What's the basis of the Tommyknockers?
They're just kind of little mischievous fae that would mess with miners, really.
Okay.
It to me it feels like if you're mining, especially, you might be getting close to the territory of something that is
Mhm.
under there that would not be happy with that.
Right.
That's what it feels like to me. Underground fae, maybe there's a cavern under there somewhere.
Okay.
It's hard to tell at this point, like you said, with Hollywood.
Mhm.
But there's those same legends in Europe as well.
It seems that if I'm oversimplifying it, just let me know because again, I'm really new on this one. But it seems that whether it's the leprechauns or the little people or the Pukwudgie or these Tommyknockers, they're all tricksters. They're all uh, I don't want to use the word harassment, but they like to play games with regular people, with humans.
Yeah, I think if you get in their way, it's going to be a little bit worse. But even on a good day, they do seem, nothing too bad, like, little kid stuff like tying your shoelaces together and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Not dangerous, but there have been accounts of duendes specifically in South America. People have accidentally destroyed what seemed to be a little person's home,
Okay.
and then their life started falling apart after. The car dies, you lose your job,
Mhm.
this and that, and just very bad luck afterwards.
That's very similar to what how the demonics attack a person, not by cut my head off, your Buffy, but by going after your bank account, your health, your money situation, by causing your car to have troubles. Uh, Maybe could they be demonic? We talked about that earlier. What's your opinion?
So I look at if they're elementals, which I think they are, they would be nature spirits essentially.
Mhm.
um Nature is not good or evil. It's both and neither.
Okay, sure.
Um, and you can, if you take a step back and think about even human behavior as well. Like, I'm the nicest person usually, but you know, if you're, I always say, if we're at a gas station and you're a creepy guy, like all you have to do is not talk to me and we're good. We're
Yeah.
fine. but if you bother me, you're getting a lemonade thrown at you or whatever it is, you know?
Agreed. Understood.
So to me, like, if you really think about the stories, like, it's never unprovoked. They're not just, out there just being violent or messing with people in big ways just because I feel like it. It's always when, their territory is encroached on, things like that.
But is there ways of knowing their territory?
So I think it's important to just be respectful because they are generally in, forest swamps. Pukwudgie means little man of the wild. So they're out in the woods. People in different areas if they're going in the woods, they'll leave different kinds of offerings. So here it's generally berries are a big thing, but I've heard of leaving tobacco and, other things when you're going into the woods.
That sounds like an American Indian thing.
Yeah.
They use tobacco a lot for such as that.
Yeah, that's probably where it came from as well, because these are Native American legends they're coming from. So that's probably where that came from as well. But I think, like, in general, like, just don't be a jerk in the woods is a good thing to live by.
Well, I bought a patch of land on top of a big hill. And there was a home here at some time because there's a big cemetery on our property. I don't know, maybe 30, 40 graves, but they just have stones up. They're not anything like normal. A neighbor said it was his wife's family and they would rather buy alcohol than a gravestone. So that's how that came up. Well, how would I know if there was something else here that I needed to be respectful of, or don't cut the trees down, which I'm working on, or don't plant, my food there? How do I know what's going on?
So the first sign is always those orbs of light, from what I've seen.
Okay.
And if it's always like it's never just little people. They always show up in, like, kind of like high strangeness flaps. What Keel would call window areas and things like that. I would at least leave a present before you clear any woods, for sure. But there are people that think you can communicate with them just like any other types of spirits. So if you are a paranormal investigator, you might have some tools at your disposal already to see if there are any on your property.
Okay, I'm not sure what a K2 meter or a pair of dowsing rods would do.
So I actually use dowsing rods myself.
Okay.
I just started with them. But
they're
people
great. I've been using them for years.
Yeah, I just started. I have my grandfather's, and I've just started taking them out to the swamp with me when I go up. But people will even use spirit boxes.
Okay.
Anything, pendulums, things like that, because they are elementals. They're like part of the spirit world. They could manipulate energy in the same way as a human spirit could.
Okay.
So there are people that are going out there and trying to use things like that to communicate with. But my advice would just be to leave an offering, check for any strange things going on.
Okay.
Another thing is, in the Indiana area, specifically towards out that way, they're known for having fireflies around them.
Okay.
Which I've also heard one sighting in the Bridgewater Triangle that involved fireflies too. So I would suspect there might be more that people are more concerned with the strange little man in front of them to notice the fireflies.
Yeah, I can see that. Susie, let me throw one out at you, and then I'll get your answer when we come back from the break. But from what you're describing, I'm seeing, and it is my current belief, and it's always changing, but it's my current belief that Bigfoot and such things are extra dimensional, that they can come and go into this world, this dimension, if you will. Are we looking at the same thing with the Pukwudgie? Because apparently he can come and go at will as well. So let's think on that for a minute, and I will be right back. So hold loose, okay? Again, I'm totally lost here. I want to compare them to cryptids. I want to compare them to spirits. When she says orbs, okay, I see orbs, or I used to see them a lot more when I ghost hunted a lot, but I could see them just about anywhere, just like shadow people. I could see them driving down the road at night. The more you open yourself up to this, the more you're going to see. So I want to compare them to this. I want to compare them to that, to the shadow people, to cryptids, to the... I don't know what to do, but I'm really coming to the idea that there is something to the whole elemental field. And I think Susy's making a very good point of that. And speaking of very good points, would you all watch this next couple of minutes, and then I will be right back with Susy Bastille.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio. Hey, UFO conference enthusiasts. We've got another great event for you in 2024. The Saucers and Aliens Kansas UFO Day in Dimension G is being held in the UFO capital of Kansas, Geneseo, on July 6th. This is a fun festival in the middle of nowhere. There will be a parade, decorated yards, costumes, vendors, speakers, and a showing of the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Appropriately, an 8-foot-tall statue of Gort and a statue of Klaatu will be dedicated. This will be the only museum in the U.S. with these custom-made statues. If you'd like to donate to the statue project or attend the event, visit GeneseoMuseum.com. That's GENESEO Museum.com. Be sure to bring your camera when you attend the event. That's GeneseoMuseum.com.
Friends, as you know, and I tell you about this all the time, UNX Network is growing so fast. There's so many new shows coming on, so much you should be joining up with us for. It's free to join. You get a lot of stuff out of it. The monthly magazine, the newsletter, the blog. So much going on here. There's so much going on in the world of the, let's say, not quite normal. So much going on that we keep track of, and you should too. So think about joining. We'll talk more about that here shortly. But the first thing I want to do is bring Susy back, and let's think about if these are extra dimensional creatures. What's your opinion, Susy? Did you come up with an idea?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that they're I think they might just be two different names for the same thing. We
Okay.
give things names to make it kind of easier to communicate, but sometimes I think that holds us back in the way we look at things.
Okay.
But, whether they're interdimensional or ultra terrestrial, it's energy manifesting here in different ways.
Okay.
You have them known to suddenly disappear.
Mm-hmm.
They also the orbs that you're seeing with them as well, they tend to start off as red and cycle through the color spectrum.
Okay.
And also you'll hear people report that they heard a high pitched noise that kind of changed in frequency. Like
Mhm.
it's almost like cycling through the light and sound spectrum. And before you have red on the spectrum, you have infrared, which humans can't see, but some dogs can. And we all know dog whistles are at a pitch higher than we can register. But in many, many sightings, it is a dog that will alert the human that there is something going on. And then all of a sudden, they see this creature. It feels like it's using whatever it has to kind of, manifest energy, and it's has to like cycle through the spectrum before it can kind of manifest.
Okay. So I've never heard the term ultra terrestrial. I'm assuming that's just another extra dimensional type, or is there something different there?
Yeah, so like an extraterrestrial would be from outside of Earth coming
Right.
here. Ultra terrestrial is just something that's from the Earth and has always been here, but
Mhm.
maybe we can't always see it.
Okay. Okay. So maybe not so much dimensional as, I don't know, back and forth in time or back and forth in space. Space referring to Earth, of course. Maybe he can transport himself to the next county or the next forest or something like that.
Yeah, there have been theories that some of these places are like portals,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
that's why you have similar lore in different places because they're just popping in and out of these portals.
Okay. That makes sense. That would explain the red hats all over the world.
Yeah, it would. Absolutely.
Okay. Where did the Pukwudgie Whisperer come from?
So I started deep diving Pukwudgies about 10 years ago.
Okay.
I'd heard the lore as a kid. My dad's from Fall River, Mass, which is on the southern tip of the Bridgewater Triangle.
Could they possibly be more psychically weird place than Fall Rivers? There is so
It is.
much attached to that area.
And so I'm glad you mentioned that. So that's right near the Freetown Fall River State Forest, which is one of the hot spots there. I am not a sensitive person at all.
Okay.
You stayed overnight in the boarding house, was fine. I go to that Freetown State Forest. I do not like it at all.
Really?
It is, it makes me angry. And there, it's not strange that, murders and things like that have happened there. It's a big forest on the edge of a city. So, it makes sense people would go there to do bad things. But there was literal satanic cult murders, sacrifices done there. As well as some other pretty crazy things. And, we all know Lizzie Borden, what happened to her family, but people don't know what happened to her aunt next door. Her aunt.
Was she murdered also?
No.
But sometime, okay.
So she tried to kill two of her children in a well.
Oh, I had not heard that one.
And then she killed herself after. So I think, at least part of it's probably psychological. It kind of sounded like she had just had a baby. She might, have been adjusting to hormones or had something more serious. But if you have that going on, and then you also live in this oppressive place, it's going to compound that. So it's a very strange place.
There was a book written recently. I interviewed the author here, and he had the evidence directly from I think Boston Medical School or something, but it was the first recorded exorcism, which was a person from Fall Rivers. And that occurred 10 years after the Lizzie Borden murders, or the Borden murders, I should say. But apparently even the priests and the cops who were investigating said, no, this is something we don't understand. This is weird. Things were appearing on her skin out of nowhere, messages and blisters. But it just seems like Fall River's a strange place.
Yep, it absolutely is. Yeah, for sure. And there's been other like weird historical things too. Like they found this skeleton in armor that no one knows where it came from. In town, they actually have it's called a pudding stone. Okay. So it looks like concrete with like river rocks in it, but it's huge. It's like a huge boulder. And those come from like Greenland. So it had been left here by a glacier, they think. But, pretty even weird natural things going on there.
Yeah. And that is where some of these creatures are known to reside then. They're in that forest.
Yeah. Freetown State Forest. There are a lot of sightings there. I've talked to firsthand witnesses as well. There is a place called the Assonet Ledge. And I'm not going to say I've at least partially debunked this.
Okay.
The background story of it. There is strange things happening there, but the ledge is actually from a quarry from the 1800s. And people, tried to say it was like a Wampanoag Native American curse that caused it. Well, they gone out of the area and became a quarry. But this one ledge, people feel compelled to jump off of it. And you can Google it. There are documented deaths there.
Okay.
From recent times going back quite a ways. And that's the same forest that I don't like.
And this is all related, do you think, to the Bridgewater Triangle, or is that just another symptom of whatever's going on in that area?
I think so. Technically, it's part of the Bridgewater Triangle, but it seems different to me. I go to the Hockomock Swamp a lot, and there's also lots of activity there, but none of it ever seems negative at all to me. I'm generally the one, defending creatures. I always say I would die trying to pet a dog man. So for me to say an area is negative is kind of a big deal. Like I said, I stay in the Lizzie Borden house. I've stayed in the swamp overnight and it was fine. But that one, Freetown State Forest, just gives me bad feelings.
Maybe it's time you did a book about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I might have to go there more to research it. So
okay, good point. Good point. All right. So the Pukwudgie Whisperer, that's your pukwudgies.blogspot.com. And then the Pukwudgie Whisperer. What is the conclusion you believe? These are, and I don't mean to be insulting, but are they animals? Are they a culture like a human? Or is there something more that I'm missing?
I would almost describe them as like a forest poltergeist, like a spirit made from nature.
Okay.
Is kind of what I think they are. They're always heavily associated with nature, and they do seem a bit protective of nature as well.
Mm-hmm. So they are guardians?
I believe so. Yes.
Yep. but they're not everywhere, just in certain areas of the country, or are they everywhere under different names?
Under different names, different appearances,
Hmm.
but the behavior is generally similar.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was asking earlier. It seems like they were all mischievous, is the only term I can come up with, the nicest term. But they'd like to mess with humans. Would that be an accurate statement also?
From the human perspective, yeah. If
Okay.
we try to think about it from their perspective, humans would be quite annoying, right?
You can't argue. Yeah, I find a
Yeah.
lot of humans quite annoying, so I'm sure you do too. Even the guy at 7-Eleven.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So
Okay.
it's all a matter of perspective on, who's in the wrong, who's in the right. But
Okay.
I think, maybe both can take some blame.
Is it a defense mechanism then that they do this, or are they mean spirited or just defensive?
I would say defensive. Most of the sightings that you hear, the
Mhm.
the creature is more scared than anything. They seem more surprised to see the human than they
Now,
do.
that you hadn't mentioned, and that brings a whole new interesting point to it. Because that
Yep.
would tell me they're like rabbits or deer or something like that. They are startled when a human comes by.
Yeah. It's
But
to me like it feels like, oops, I didn't mean to let you see me. That wasn't on
okay,
purpose.
all right, all right. So I actually do know. Do I want to say right from wrong, or at least they can reason more than most animals can?
Yeah, I mean, people generally, like I said, there's generally dogs involved. The dogs barking
Mhm.
at this creature could be like terrifying for it,
I'm
depending.
sure.
But after the initial shock, everyone, goes their separate ways, fine.
Okay.
But there have been stories of them showing up after an initial sighting. There was this
Hmm.
one woman who had a sighting, and then she kept hearing knocks on the side of her house after, and she thought it was the creature. There was another woman who had a sighting, and then afterwards saw the creature peeking in her window several times.
Okay.
And those kind of stories are always reported just by women. So it's a little bit creepy. But
Well, it's been my experience that a male dog or a male cat tends to be closer to the woman than a man, as opposed to, my father-in-law only had female dogs because they would stick close to him. So it may be kind of the same thing. It's just a
yeah.
matter of being protective or whatever.
Yeah. And you had mentioned shadow people briefly.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to call out that in the Hockomock Swamp, there are sometimes sightings that also have shadow people involved.
Okay.
People think it might be Hobamok, he was the Wampanoag deity of death and disease and lived in the
Okay.
swamp.
Now, is he the
And
one that allegedly, according to the legend, threw the little people out, threw the Pukwudgies out? Pukwudgies?
yeah, different person.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the legend from that book I was talking about earlier.
Hmm. But that you
Um,
think was more of a allegory to Europeans and the natives?
yeah, I've been told that's
Okay.
the living tribe says that he made that up, basically.
And that makes sense.
Yep. Yep.
And I know, generally speaking, the leprechauns, which seem to be somehow related, if not the same, they're known for the same thing. They only get angry with humans when humans invade their area or treat them
Mhm.
badly. Other than that, they just live their lives in the woods, is my understanding.
Yeah, and I think, whenever you're thinking about any kind of entities, you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes sometimes
Okay.
instead of saying, this creature, made, ruined my car, it's
Mhm.
evil. Well, what precipitated that? what was going on? Was that creature threatened by you first and defending itself? You know, we talk about like bears are big around where I am right now.
Okay.
No one's calling bears evil.
No, they're animals.
Right.
To
But
be evil, I think
they're dangerous. We know that they're dangerous, but you have to like leave them alone, give them their space, and you're fine.
I think to be evil, you have to know right from wrong, and an animal wouldn't know that. Would the Pukwudgie know that?
I don't know if they would look at you encroaching on their territory and them responding as wrong.
Okay, and that's
yeah, no. I think and that's that's kind of what I mean about putting yourself in their shoes.
Okay.
You might not have intentionally done something, but that doesn't mean you didn't do something.
Yeah, I can understand that too. A mama bear protecting her cubs is not evil.
Right.
She is just protecting her cubs, even though what she does we would consider vicious and destructive, actually life-threatening.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and people will do it too.
All right. Once again, I know I've put it up already, but what is a way people can find out more about the Pukwudgie and your work with them?
So if you are a reader, you can go to pukwudgies.blogspot.com. If you are a watcher, you can check out the Pukwudgie Whisperer on YouTube. You can also Google my name to see, other interviews and speeches I've done. And if you are interested in more of me in general, very active on Facebook talking about Pukwudgies there. Also occasionally on the High Strangeness Factor with Steve Ward and Andy Mercer talking about all different kinds of creatures and strange things.
Is there any other creatures here in North Carolina I should be worried about or concerned or on the lookout for?
Oh, I have heard one legend of a giant snake.
Okay.
We also have giant snakes legends up here as well. Those, I'm not sure I would like to see one, but they're described to be about 25 feet long and as big around as a stovepipe is the description I hear.
Wow.
So large, giant phantom snakes, I would be on the lookout for those.
Oh, you can bet. Even little snakes I'm on the lookout for. But yeah, that one would be, are they regular creatures?
More like phantoms, I would say.
Okay. So basically a 12 gauge is not going to help me with this thing.
No.
All right. That's one I need to worry about. Thanks. You just caused me nightmares for the rest of the week.
You're welcome. The service I offer.
That was awesome. Susy, thanks for coming on and thanks for your information. I can't say I'm totally into it, but you've cleared up a lot of information or a lot of questions that I had. Especially
it's always good to it's always good to know as much as you can because sometimes you make connections with other things that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So are you leaning towards, like I am, the Fortean idea that all of this, be it aliens, demons, Pukwudgies, and Bigfoot, are all connected somehow?
Definitely, for sure.
Okay. Well, you're a little ahead of me then because I'm still trying to separate these and I'm having a hard time with that. But there's got to be a reason why there is so much it all occurs in the same area, like your swamp area or that forest you talked about.
Yeah, I do have to say I did have almost like an identity crisis, throughout my journey, realizing, the world doesn't work the way I thought it did. And starting to see these connections and strange things. Reading Keel was eye-opening to me, thinking someone else has seen these connections too. I'm not just making this up.
Mm-hmm.
So, it definitely, it gets worse before it gets better. And I still don't have answers to anything. I just have like a clearer opinion. Okay. I know I don't believe and things like that, but, I don't think we'll ever have answers.
I don't think I could have said it any better because I tend to agree with you. I'm just not sure where this is going to lead us. And maybe we never will. I don't know. We'll see. But For now, Susy, thanks for coming on. And I know you're talking about starting a book. If you get that done, get a hold of me because we want to bring you back and talk about this some more.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I had a great time.
I'm glad you came. Talk to you later. Be careful.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Again, I don't know what to say about this. It's a strange topic. And again, I spent my life thinking leprechauns and fairies was all the work of Walt Disney Corporation. Yeah, okay, it's based on legends, but there's a lot based on legends. And tell you what, folks, the more I'm into this and the more of these great guests that I've been getting in here, I'm beginning to wonder how many more of these legends is true. They all have some basis in fact, but this, the elementals, the cryptids, the aliens, the ghosts, so much going on. It's been intriguing. It's been a wild ride. I'm glad you all came with me on this one. Hey, I do want to remind you, though, to join the UNX Network. It's real simple. All you have to do is go to the website, unxnetwork.com, and join it. It's free. And for all of that, you get, of course, the blog. And I got to tell you guys, the blog has been burning up lately with Tic Tac UFOs, the cube-shaped UFOs, the aliens, the ghosts, Bigfoot, Mothman. It's all in there, and it seems like every couple of days there's a new topic on there. And then, of course, there's the newsletter, which has a lot of the same. It's a little deeper dive, and of course, the magazine. Now, the magazine, when you join up, is free. This is just a couple of them. I've had a story in the darker one there. I actually had two, one on the haunted battleship North Carolina and another one on legends from Halloween. The other one has some great stories. I've recently did stories on vampires in America. I've done stories on conspiracy theories, conspiracy facts. So there's a lot here just for joining up, and it doesn't cost a thing. What's stopping you? So also, the UNX Network is putting on the XCon again this year, again in Springfield, Missouri, October 11th to the 13th. And you can get tickets on unxnetwork.com. Again, last year, we was in the same hotel, did not know it was haunted. Nobody mentioned it, but we're sitting there in this big room. I'm in the back selling my books, got speakers up on the stage, a crowd of people. And shadows people are just strolling across or floating across the room. Everyone's looking at it. And went back later to the folks that worked there who said, oh, yeah, didn't we tell you? It's very haunted here. No kidding. So we're going to be trying to make contact. I'm going to be leading one group. I think Michelle Roos is going to be leading a group. And we're going to be trying to make contact with some of these spirits. We'll be using dowsing rods for my team. And of course, I never use dowsing rods without a K2 meter close by. So we're going to have some fun with that. I want you all to join us there if you can. And other than that, I'm going to step away and consider the Pukwudgie. You know, I just recently decided, all right, Normie, the Lake Norman monster, that's not real. I got to tell you, she's made a really good case that there are elemental creatures in the woods. And I'm going to have to keep more of an eye on them. I wonder if they would set off a electrical motion sensor light. That might help. Anyway, thanks for coming in, guys. I want you all to stay cool. And if you can, stay spooked, okay?